Yo, what's up? Trash Cam Manu, Trash Mike Manu here. Sorry there's no funny clip today. I got a big announcement for you. We are live streaming a comp tomorrow, if you're watching this the day it comes out, on this YouTube channel. I forgot exactly when it will start. I guess I'll put the time here. But yeah, you can come check it out. Subscribe, hit the bell button so that you get notified when we go live. Hope to see you there. Doo-doo-doo.
Hello, world of speed cubers. Have you ever gone to a competition and had your cube stolen, or maybe you got hurt, or you had a leg fall off? Well, who is responsible when that happens? Who do you shift the blame to? We're gonna find out today, cause like, you gotta find someone to fix your problem.
Or just someone to blame.
There's someone to blame, yeah. Yeah, and I think this is like a question that hasn't really been explored enough, because I feel like most people's competition experiences are very like positive and nothing really goes wrong.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that like it does go wrong sometimes.
Oh, perfect. That's genius. Yeah, that's gonna be the title. It will be the worst competition experiences.
Gone wrong.
Gone wrong. The thumbnail is
legal
gonna be a bunch of question
ramifications.
marks everywhere.
Yeah, we gotta do our poses for the thumbnail.
Oh, are all doing the shrugging thing?
That's too wide. It won't fit. So it has to be shorter. Like.
Like a bait. Well, if it's too close, it's like this thing, which I don't want to do.
We gotta do the Saikuno. Oh god. Oh god.
Is that his thing?
Okay, we gotta stop screwing around. Yeah, Saikuno.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, what Carrie mentioned, bad competition experiences, but specifically, like liability that's involved with it. Like what happens when things go wrong, right? To kind of like ease into this conversation, what Carrie brought up was a really good point. A really common story that people have is your cubes getting stolen, right? I've had my cube stolen before. I think I was like at my I don't know, first, second, maybe third competition. I just had kind of like my cube out there, and then someone yoinked it. It was a 2x2. I never got it back, but you know, it was a 2x2. So at the end of the day, I didn't care that much. But you know, there's like a short answer and there's like a longer philosophical answer to this. Maybe you guys can kind of assume where this is going, but for this one, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess it was my fault. It was my fault because I thought no one would actually take something that I left on the table temporarily. Like, I thought it was in good hands, but it wasn't. But it was my own dang fault, unfortunately. That's the short answer. I don't know if you guys have an opinion on that.
Yeah, I think I've almost certainly left cubes in like public places, just kind of assuming that it'll probably be fine, right? Like, but I think it's hard. I think especially when you're a kid to realize that like, okay, like that's just not how anything works anymore. Like, you know, like yeah, like you want to believe in like the good faith of people that like, oh, someone will try and like return it to the right person, which to be fair happens. I think probably in the majority of cases. Most of the time, people see cube there that isn't theirs, and they're just like, okay, like this is not my cube, right? Like, and they'll either return it to the to like the staff, and then you know we keep it around, or you know it just ends up staying there until the end when the staff comes and cleans everything up. But yeah, I think like a very simple way to avoid this is just don't leave your cubes out in public, because if you do, then like you kind of just have to assume the worst case, right? It's like, and if you do lose your cube, right, there's nothing that really I think the competition staff or anything can do. It's not like we can like reimburse like the cost of your cube or something like that. I don't know if have you guys ever like heard of like parents who have tried to like request that from the staff? Is that a thing that's happened?
There has definitely, yeah.
Oh, it has?
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember a specific situation, but it has definitely happened where people were concerned, like, hey, I lost my cube. What are you going to do about it? And I'm like, what do you mean what I'm going to do about it?
What can you do about it?
I don't know. I mean,
your fault, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of like a wake-up call I had when I was in college, because my bike got stolen, and you know, people were telling me like file a police report. But it's like I did that and I did not get my bike back, and then it just sort of realized like what can they even do, because nobody knows where that bike is.
Right.
Not the government, not like my college, not me.
Who knows?
So
maybe the government does know where it is, you know.
Oh, conspiracy.
Okay, truthfully, they if they really cared enough, they probably could figure it out. Now that I think about it, I feel like there's a way that
but dude, that would require like
in the world, you know.
That would take like a criminal investigation. Like that would require like literally like Golden State Killer
court.
level like investigators.
Like if they're willing to like spend police officers like 2 months of their salary time, then maybe they can investigate on like security cam footage and all that. But in the case of like speed cubing, these cubes are much smaller, they're worth a lot less, and there is not a police person in the world who cares that your your Volk power is gone.
Well, if your Volk power is gone, then good riddance. Forget that cube, man. That was a trash.
Yeah, no. To be fair, it wasn't a great cube, but you know, like we, but it's true.
I mean,
anywho, you know, we joke about this, we make lighthearted like references about it, but in all seriousness, it does happen. So don't do that. Like, don't leave your things unattended. As best you can. I still have to remind staff members to not leave their bag in like an exposed space. A lot of the time, staff members will leave their bag in a place where a lot of people come in and out. And your bag could have a lot of things that are not even cube related. For God, who knows? Maybe even a laptop. The amount of times I've asked a staff member, like, dude, move your bag like to like a corner where we have scramblers, stuff like that. Move your bag to the scrambling area, because that's much more trustworthy and less traffic. It's a little bit out of the way, but it's just a habit because we're pretty much built on good faith in the community because it's a small community. But as the community continues to grow, guys, do not leave your stuff unattended. Like, if you need to take your bag on you, here's this kid in NorCal, Manu, you know who he is. Little small guy, you know what I mean. The guy who's hit puberty a little bit. He always is wearing his backpack when he's solving and everything. Smart boy.
Smart. Or you can leave it with your parents. Like, if you ask me, honestly, bringing your bag around to, like, you know, you're going to compete and then you got to take your bag off and put your bag back on. Honestly,
it is a lot.
That's way too much work.
It is a lot.
Honestly, it's probably not even good for your competition mental, right? Because, like, you're not practicing like that at home, so then why are you doing it in competition? If you have someone to give it to, just give it to them. It's way easier. It'll be way easier for everybody. But yeah, it is true. Like, don't leave your stuff unattended. And I think this is an important one. As the community gets bigger, this could become a bigger and bigger problem, and so it's important that like we do something to address it now. And then also, I think if you're on the other side of this, you know, if you see like, okay, this cube is like a lost cube, instead of taking it, don't take that. Like, don't take it and just claim it as yours. Just give it to like a staff member, and then we will deal with it. This happened at Mill Valley, right? Like, I ended up with some kids like I don't even know. I what cube was it? Was it a Pyraminx or something? Like, I ended up with some kids' Pyraminx, and I'm like, okay, like, let me hold on to this. I'll just keep it in my pocket all day. That way, when someone, like, shows up and they're like, hi, like, I lost my Pyraminx, it's like, is this yours? And then you can just deal with it right then and there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking a little bit, and then, you know, that's just something that there isn't really a good solution for. Like, we have, pretty standard protocols of like a lost and found, of just waiting for a person to approach us when we do have it. But you know, we gotta continue to hope in good faith for our community, but we also gotta, you know, understand that this is the problems that come with the growing community just in general. I kind of wanted to mention a little bit, because I dealt with this a little bit at SLO, of injuries in the competition area. And there's not really like a really good way to deal with it per se. I don't think a lot of people have had to deal with it, but there is a reason why event insurance is a thing. Right. Because in the case where you need to pay out of pocket to do some like procedures, examinations, yada yada, there's a reason why event insurance exists. But the actual process and the actual event happening is like a different feeling, a different situation of like not understanding what to do because it's so familiar. Someone was stepping off a ledge because the competition
right,
area
it was like tiered,
was tiered and elevated, and they were leaving, and then they didn't see the ledge, and boom, they sprained their ankle. And what made it even worse was he did not have his guardians there. He was with his friend's parents, so it was a very tricky situation. We weren't really sure. It was in a school. It was in a classroom, right? Like there wasn't really like a good way to deal with that. And I just really tried to make sure I stepped out of the way. I made sure I talked to the competitor and to the parents that were like his day of guardians. Like, what can I do to support you guys? This is my phone number. If there's anything out of pocket expenses that you need covered, like please contact me about it. And I don't know if that's the right way to deal with it, but I do know that way should not be the expectation. I mean, that's just a lot to ask for, you know,
right?
Of people hosting competitions, but it might be something that needs a little bit more structure, right?
Right. I mean, because the reason why we were talking about this earlier, and the reason is because like, you know, like big venues or whatever, they will like sometimes they will make competitors sign forms, or the organization team signs forms. It's like, okay, like if any injury or whatever happens, like this is like your problem to deal with, or like, you know, or like we will do like this much to assist or whatever. But the issue is what happens when you have either you're at a venue that doesn't have any sort of event insurance or any sort of like agreement, right? Or, and this is why we were talking about it, you were at a private residence, and you know competition is happening there. Someone gets injured. What happens? What is the WCA policy? Should there be a WCA policy that's like, okay, like if you get injured at one of our competitions, then you know XYZ happens, whether that's, you know, WCA pays out, the org team is forced to pay out, or you know, what is like the procedure that goes on and things like that.
I mean, when we say payout, I mean a lot of the times like minor things. Let's say
if you get like a cut or something, like those are something that are like pretty easy to deal with. That I think most people are not going to sue the WCA for liability if you get a cut. But it's more serious. Even a sprained ankle is like, well, a sprained ankle is pretty bad, I guess.
So this is a little fun fact, and this is what I learned. I sprained my ankle one time playing basketball, right? And I thought it was pretty severe. I heard cracking, and I thought it wasn't a sprained ankle because I've had sprained ankles before. I thought I fractured my foot.
I see.
So I went to the emergency room because my foot was a freaking grapefruit at that point.
Yikes.
I went to the emergency room. And then, you know, I wasn't with any parents at the time. Like, I was just kind of by myself. I wasn't really sure what to do. I had some transportation to help me out.
Were you still under 18?
I was a student at my college at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think my total bill for that, the pure x-ray, I had an x-ray done and I got the results for it. I don't remember if it was either $900 or $2,700. It was one of the two numbers. One of those
I was
numbers.
expecting it was gonna be a lot.
So what if someone needs an x-ray for assurance and needs to go to the emergency room? I mean, we're dealing with 300 people at a time for like a bare minimum competition. You're telling me that can't happen, right? And if it happens once, that's already enough to be a problem, right? You should never have it happen in the first place, but based purely off of probability, you might run into that situation with like an event of that capacity, right?
Right. Because it's not just competitors we have to deal with. It's also their guests. You know, if there's like any other staff or whatever's going on, there's a lot of things that can go wrong.
I mean, maybe I should probably fact check myself here, because I think the simplest, not the kindest solution, but the simplest solution is to make sure that all competitors sign a disclosure form, right? And that's generally what is done, right? Like, if you register, you agree that X, Y, and Z happens, you'll deal with it, stuff like that. Maybe there's something on a WCA site that includes that I'm unaware of. And someone please comment down below if you're watching the video version of this podcast, or if you're listening to the audio, come to the comment section of YouTube and let us know. But that would be the quickest solution. I think that's probably easily implementable within the WCA website.
Yeah,
I think. What do you think?
My guess is that it should be easily implementable. I mean, because as far as I'm aware, Carrie, you can correct both of us. Like, I don't remember ever signing anything that's like, oh yeah, like this is like I don't remember signing anything that's like, or even reading anything that's like, oh, like you have to, like in the terms and conditions or whatever, that's like, if something goes wrong, then it's not the WCA's responsibility.
Yeah, I've never signed anything in the entire world of speed cubing, I don't think.
Yeah,
I remember going to my first competition and feeling like they just handed me a name tag and I'm already like part of the community. Like it just felt like there was nothing like legal or no paperwork, which is a good thing at the time.
Yeah.
But you know, if I had, I don't know, a heart attack that day, I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have blamed the venue, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, or like what happens if like, let's say there's catastrophic failure and like a table collapses, right? Like we don't use particularly fancy tables most of the time, right? We just use folding tables, right? So what if one of the table like collapses and then like maybe you're the judge, right? You're sitting on the end of the table collapses and then like it hits your foot, right? Like now like you have a fractured foot or whatever, right? Like what happens in that scenario? And you know, like as the competitor, it seems like this is my recollection, is that there's just no, it's like too straightforward, right? There's no point at which you're like, okay, like I agree that this is going to happen, or that this could happen, and should that happen, that these steps are going to happen. I don't know. It's interesting and something that might be either, you know, you can quickly add it to the terms of conditions or like make it more clear, or maybe like, you know, maybe we'll need to have competitors sign forms, or you know, their guardians sign forms. I remember in some of the Berkeley competitions when I used to organize Berkeley, they would ask us to distribute forms to, I think, minors. And I don't remember what exactly was in those forms. I didn't really pay that much attention to them. We were just told, hey, if you have minors showing up to whatever event, you need to distribute these forms for the minors and their guardians for probably legal reasons. I know that has been done in the past, but I don't think there's anything specific for like, you know, physical injuries or anything.
I mean, I think with a lot of those forms, it's a lot of like legalese, and a lot of people aren't reading it, and they're just like signing it so that they can go.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like, there's no way people like pay super close attention to the fine print or anything like that, right?
I mean, some people probably do, but definitely not the majority.
Well, I think like most people probably see like, this is like, you know, you read the title of the form, and it's like release form for like minors or injuries or whatever. It's like, okay, like I think I understand what's going on, and then just sign at the bottom.
Yeah,
I mean, this is more of a general problem that I think all forums have, because there are some forums that are so complicated that like it is just not worth it. Like there's no way I'm going to read all of these terms of condition in order to download a game, like a single player game that's like, I don't know what is like a very unoffensive game like Mini Metro. Like I'm not gonna like go through all of these paragraphs.
But the fact that like these types of these types of small games and like schools do that in some capacity should be even more incentive to maybe have the WCA make it more clear in the terms and conditions, because there is the drawback is that it requires a little bit of extra time to probably update the way registration works. The benefit to it is that anytime you encounter a scenario, I mean, we would have a document to refer to.
Right. So like the WCA has legal protection in some sense.
Yeah, and it's like, it's scary. I mean, literally thousands of people compete every weekend. I think thousands might even be low. Yeah, it's close.
No, sounds about right, yeah.
10 competitions a weekend, 15 competitions a weekend, that sounds like a lot, actually. I mean, the world.
No, even if 10 competitions a weekend probably has like 1,000 competitors. I can see it.
Yeah, probably. And at the very least, thousands and thousands and thousands of solves, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And then if you count guardians, that's definitely thousands of people, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's a problem. Every single weekend, I mean, like, if you encounter it the first time, that's one too many times. Right.
So yeah, that's true.
You should be prepared for it.
Yeah, I guess we're lucky that we, you know, it's like it's a non-contact sport. Well, I guess it's debatable whether it's a sport or not, but like, so we're lucky that like most injuries that could happen are like my hand is tired, or like I did not drink
Carpal
enough
tunnel.
water, or something like straightforward like that. Things that can be like fixed quite simply.
Oh, I
Fainting
guess
during multi-blind.
on this note, maybe we should just make a mental note to ourselves. At some point, maybe the sports conversation should be a podcast episode.
It definitely should. I was thinking the exact same thing as I was saying it.
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't think of that one before.
We
but
gotta
it-
suit up for that
it
when
feels like
we
it
gotta
comes up
debate.
so often.
Let's be real though. You can develop carpal tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It is real.
Or
I mean,
arthritis.
and then Lucas Hatter had juvenile arthritis.
Yeah.
Whether or not
Was
it was
that-
like genetic or accelerated with
Yeah.
cubing, it happened, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if it was caused by cubing, but I guess that's a little invasive. So,
Well, I think
we will
arthritis is
speculate.
partially genetic.
Yeah.
Someone,
Maybe. I have no idea.
someone, please fact check me. I'm just throwing out ideas and thoughts, off the top of my head, which is probably not the most good thing to do if I'm trying to not ever get canceled. But you know what?
Well-
It is what it is.
All right. Well,
I guess it's a podcast, so people aren't really expecting super well
Yeah, that is
edited
true.
and researched arguments.
we are not researching this ahead of time, so hopefully
We should
you'll-
Yeah.
have one of our podcast episode titles should be Stream of Consciousness.
This
Just
is
like
stream of
no plan
consciousness.
at
We
all.
just blabber about whatever the hell we want. This is
Um,
true stream of consciousness.
Yeah. I think so far, I don't think this episode has gotten quite that dark, but there was another angle to this liability thing.
Yeah. Well,
a
I think
little
before
bit,
we
yeah.
get there, let's move to a slightly less dark thing. There was
We're
an incident.
inching.
Yeah, we're getting there, and it's an important thing that needs to be mentioned. But I think we will let's save that for the end. But there was an incident I heard about. So this is not the dark thing, but there was an incident I heard about a while ago where basically like there was a competition that was happening. I think it was a multi-day competition. I think it might have been a multi-day competition. I don't remember. But so basically there were some competitors who had gained access, I think, to a part of the building that was supposed to be like locked, or basically competitors were not supposed to be there. And I think what had happened is they were in the bathroom. I think they were kids also. They were in the bathroom. They had, they left the sink faucet on and open. So the water was just flowing out of the sink. I think they had probably forgotten to turn the faucet off. They left. They went on with the rest of the competition, and the whole competition ended. Everything was fine. They left for the day. But because it was in a place that was not where the competitors were not supposed to be, no one ended up like going up there to check on what's going on. Typically, I think what happens is that like if you run out of space, the custodial staff will at least like go through that and sweep the place for usually like pretty normal things, just like people leave like just like random trash, like piece of paper, or like sometimes people will leave like drinks or like cans, things like that. But no one is going up there. I think it was like a 6th floor maybe. No one went up there to check that because there's no reason to. They come, and I think it's Monday. They realize on Monday when I think it might have been a school, when everything was open, that there was serious water damage that had happened to the roof of that.
That was
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah, it was insane.
I thought you were just gonna say like a high water bill, but
No. This is way,
That would've been good.
This is way worse. They would have wanted that at that point. The water bill was at least
Yeah.
their concern. So the water had like gone through, I think, the floor of the bathroom, and had seeped into like I guess it was a 5th floor ceiling, and it caused I think there might have been a classroom underneath it or something. It had caused a lot of damage to the roof underneath. And the venue was like, "Yo, what is going on? Like, why did this happen?" I guess they had like looked back, and then they contacted the organization team. They're like, all right, well, you guys, like your competitors or whatever did this, you need to pay up for this. And it's just like, wow, like they caused like a lot of damage, and this itself is also like a liability that competitions need to deal with. We always say in our emails, like, please do not trash the venue, right? Like, we are borrowing this venue, like this is not our like private venue or whatever, and even if it were, don't trash the venue. But I guess this was one case where it went really, really wrong. And I think, I don't remember what exactly the outcome was, but I'm pretty sure the organization team, they had to fork over all the money. So they definitely had a huge loss on that. I think they are going to sustain losses for either the next couple competitions, maybe. And they're also just like, now, you know, this venue was nice, but now there's no way we can return to this venue ever again, because with what face are they going to return and be like, yeah, this is not going to happen like the second time or whatever? They've already had a bad experience, so they've also lost a venue, and anyone who has organized competitions knows that venues are like one of the bottlenecks to organizing competitions. Usually it's not like delegate availability. Usually it's just like there's no suitable venue to hold a competition. So that kind of stuff can also happen as well. And it's just like that's the first time I've ever heard of like such a high profile like fine. It's basically a fine, right? So it's just like, wow, like what does the WCU do in that situation? This is like less competitor facing. This is more like, okay, like, and I think in this case it was all the organization team. I think they dealt with it like entirely using community funds. But it's just like, you know, what if this happens again? Like, is there like some sort of like WCA like safety net for things that happen, like a rainy day fund in case something goes like super south, some venue gets destroyed? Obviously, like, you know, because of the competitors or whatever, like what happens in that scenario? Do you guys have thoughts on this?
Before we continue with the thoughts, I wanted to ask if you knew approximately what the cost was.
I forgot. I would guess at what it was, but I don't want to say something extremely wrong. I don't know. I just know it was extremely expensive.
5 figures?
I think it was
dollars?
I think it was five figures USD. That sounds.
I'm just
right.
thinking 4 figures. 4 figures sounds low. That's the only
four
thing
figures would be covered. I think it was like a roof, and I think the tap. Oh, I'm realizing now. The tap was left on for 69 hours. That's right. Because I think
like
it was
days.
Yeah. I think the competition must have been on Saturday probably, and they didn't. I'm pretty sure. Oh no, they didn't find out until Tuesday. That's right. I do remember this. Yeah. So the tap was on for 69 hours, and only then after did they find out. So I mean, it was serious water damage, and you know, roofs are like, or not roofs, ceilings are like not like easy things to fix. Like it was like severe damage that had happened.
I mean, yeah. So like this is my first time hearing it, and I guess the thing that kind of frustrates me is that like the organizers obviously didn't want this to happen, but like the people who caused the damage don't seem to suffer any financial fine.
I don't know.
Like they
I don't
kind
know.
of get off scot-free.
Maybe
like,
they
maybe
contacted them. I have no idea.
Yeah, like I guess it would be hard to find out exactly who did it, but it's like
no, they know.
I feel like
they know.
Oh, they know.
Yeah, I think in this specific situation they knew, because I think I think like they had asked people not to go up there, or something had happened. But I think in this case they knew who had. I think it was just some kids. So even if they know, like what can they do, right? They're not going to ask the kid like, give me your piggy bank. Like this is obviously not going to work.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, you could, you know, give them like a 6-month ban from competitions.
That's
like,
what I was thinking. Yeah.
Just to deter it from happening again. But obviously, like that's not going to pay for the roof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like,
and like I'm just thinking, if that were to happen in like a public place, like where the general public is allowed, like a park or something, like let's say you deface a statue in a public park, then I feel like you'd have to pay the fine. But I don't know how that works if it's a kid.
Vandalism, right?
Yeah,
well,
I don't know how it works in the law.
It's the guardians. A lot of the times, the guardians.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Deal with
That's what I was thinking. It's like the guardians of the kids.
Yep, exactly, and that's like part of this whole problem, right? Like the presence of the guardians or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Like I wonder with a lot of like kid speed cubers, like maybe the parents, you know, don't even go with them to the competition, and like don't even know what the schedule is. So like to them it could be a complete surprise that like, oh, my kid was even damaging buildings. Like I didn't even know they were at that building.
Yeah. And I mean, for the most part, I'm pretty sure most if not all like parents, guardians probably don't want their children to destroy stuff either. It's just like this just happened, and now like everybody's left to pick up the pieces except for the kids. God damn, it's like it's always the kids, man. But like in this scenario, like so what happens, right? Like I think so the competition team, I think they were totally out for it. I don't know how much the WCA helped out with it. My guess is that they probably put in some amounts. It would seem reasonable to me that like this is like one of the reasons why we have like a World Cube Association. There's like sometimes they can help out with things like this, or maybe there's like some other sort of regional organization that might have dealt with it. Not entirely sure, but yeah, just another like crazy thing. So I guess it's not an awful competition experience for like most people, but like it was just like kind of an awful competition experience for the organizers, which is like just as bad in some cases.
I mean, it's just tough because it's just a feeling that lingers, right? And then, like I said, it's not even the fact that there is or there isn't a solution. It's the fact that you actually have to deal with it. You know, that's like, okay, like it's happening. What am I doing, right?
Yeah, it becomes like another like item that like needs to be dealt with, which it sucks, right? There's already so many things to deal with post competition, and you know, destroyed venue is not one of them.
Yeah, destroyed venue is not one of them. I mean, regional organizations are kind of designed to somewhat support this in a way. On top of like a lot of regions have regional organizations, so I'm sure like they could have scavenged the funds from somewhere, but that somewhere is the community's money, right? At the end of the day, so it's just like it takes one messed up situation, one person really, and then you could be putting the whole community down the drain, right? And it's just like you start from zero again. Like this could be the difference between an organization making world's bid. I don't know, just thinking off the top of my head here. I mean,
right, and not to mention they've lost that venue forever, right? So, and I think in general, you know, as like representatives of the sport and the organization, we don't really want to be going out there and like leaving bad tastes in people's mouths. It's like, oh, you know, like we never want to deal, like, because imagine if you think about it from like the school or whatever, the venue's perspective, they're like, oh, like, you know, this incident happened in a speed cubing competition. Obviously none of this is related to speed cubing, but it's just like, oh, you know, like those speed cubers, like that's the type of crowd that they have. It's just not good for the image overall. So
yeah, I think there's like a problem with every community where like if it gets too big, you will have the worst members of that community essentially leaving a bad taste in a lot of outsiders' mouths, and then it's like the more respectable members of the community can like try to make the situation look better, but it's like you just don't have control over 150,000 people,
right?
Or however many people have gone to competitions.
I have nothing to add to that.
I think it's just like there's like a phrase like tragedy of the commons or something.
Well, tragedy of the commons I think is referring to like I think it's particular. It's like if you have like I think I heard it in terms of like if you're like ice fishing, like so in the ice fishing little water hole or whatever, there are like 7 fish, but there's only 10 people, and normally you would say like, okay, like you take all the 7 fish and then you split them evenly amongst everybody, right? But the tragedy of the commons is that like the one person realizes if they just take the one fish, they get the whole fish, which is better than taking 0.7 fish. So they'll take the whole fish, but then everybody else realizes this, so they also will want to take one fish. Somebody's not going to get a fish, and then they like for them 0 is worse than 0.7. So then like they will try and get another fish from someone else, like, whether that's like either like taking it from them or whatever. So I think that's what it referred. That's where I heard it at least, and maybe I'm totally wrong, who knows.
Do you feel like we should just do a random podcast episode about whether humans are inherently good or evil?
Yes, I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah.
I guess it's philosophical.
That's 2 episodes that just came up.
Like some people, like there's a school of thought that good and evil don't even exist, and they're just like social constructs.
We can call it like over philosophized. Wait, is that?
I'm gonna add it. Yeah, I'm gonna add it in right now. So what was the first one? Sports organization.
Okay, that one is
it
a
a
legit
sport or a hobby?
That was legit debate. The other debate is maybe that belongs on a different channel.
Are humans inherently good or evil?
Oh my goodness.
Thomas Hobbes says they're evil. John Locke says they're good.
I remember this. Yeah. From way long ago. Right. This is like AP US history, like one of the.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's where I heard this from.
Wait, you also took AP US history? You also suffered?
Yeah, I don't remember.
I knew the Hobbes quote because of the Community TV show. So it was an early season episode about a debate show of good and evil, which is hilarious. But anyways, I just wanted to flex that I finished typing on the storyboard because I average 120 words per minute.
All
I
right.
just wanted to,
Okay, well.
just
totally
anyways.
Okay.
Look, membrane
completely
keyboards are the
faster
best
than me.
keyboards. I'm just membrane keyboards. It's to play.
Well, this sounds like another podcast episode. Debate best keyboard.
Yeah.
By the way, jokes aside, I mean, I actually bought this keyboard because I thought this would be a good travel keyboard. The Logitech MX keys. So full
It's
review
pretty
will be on my
lightweight.
channel in the future. It is really lightweight. Look at that. It's really thin. I could throw it in my laptop bag. Has a numpad.
Stay
The
tuned
numpad
for
does-
MX Keys
Wait.
reviews on Chai's channel coming up in the next week.
I mean, what was the reason that you want a numpad on the keyboard? There's two, right? One, a numpad for data entry. That would be kind of
Yeah.
cool. Working with a lot of numbers, stuff like that, a numpad is very essential. But also, alternatively, if you don't, if you're streaming, guess what you can do? You can set up hotkeys,
Yeah.
macros. So it's very flexible. So I recommend this keyboard. Anyways,
all right.
back
Well,
to
this is
liability.
now Chai Tech Tips.
Yeah.
Welcome
But back to
the Chai Tech Tips
liabilities,
podcast.
guys. There is one more topic, right, Manu? That we
There's
wanted to
unfortunately one more
address.
That
That-
we should
that-
at least
yeah.
touch on. And unfortunately, and some of you might know where this is going, but in any community that involves minors, there's always the problem of bad actors, and there are always situations where the darkest things that people can do. I mean, it's Murphy's Law, right? Like something that can go wrong will go wrong. And this is a major problem that has. I guess I should. This is like a trigger warning. Like, if you don't want to listen to this, like, you can leave. I'm not.
I guess theoretically it could be a trigger warning
Yeah.
about like just maybe violence and abuse. Maybe is
Yeah.
probably the best way to
Violence
put
and abuse. Yeah. So.
it. Yeah, let's just say trigger warning, violence and abuse. Yeah.
Yeah.
You should put that in the timestamp too.
I'll put it in the timestamp. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, some of you might know that, like, in the Smash community, there was a lot of stuff that went down. I think it was summer 2020, where there were a lot of stories from a lot of like prominent players about prominent players about basically like abuse on a lot of different levels that had happened to them, both as adults and as minors. And it has me thinking, like, obviously, like, these are like very vile acts that, like, people can do, but, like, at the same time as people who are like involved in the community, we need to there are probably steps that we need to take in order to make sure that things like this don't happen in our community. I mean, for all we know, there have already been like things that have already happened, but things that we just don't know about. But as much as we can, we need to. I think it is kind of our duty to reduce incidents. I say incidents, and this is really like extreme euphemism. But I think that there are probably steps that we need to take in order to prevent things like this from happening. I think what's good is that for most part in cubing competitions, like, minors tend to show up with their parents, which I think is really good. That saves a lot of like bad situations from happening. For example, like, some kid is like not feeling it, something odd is happening. At least they have one person to go to, which is their parent. They can deal with it very directly. And a lot of things that were going on with Smash were also like kind of like multi-day events. There were odd things happening in like kind of like off venue things, and that's not really a problem with cubing because we typically don't really have multi-day events. But yeah, it just had me thinking, like, right now, if someone wants to show up to a competition, they just can. They don't need like a parent or guardian or anything. And it does the same thing with like the liabilities, right? Like, what do we like? What steps do we need to take in order to protect the competitors from any sort of like mishaps from happening? And yeah, so I was wondering if you guys had thoughts on this matter.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought about this, but you could even show up to a venue if you like weren't registered for the competition,
Right.
and like maybe you don't even speed cube, but like
Yeah.
like no one's stopping you at the door.
Right.
And I know that, like, for VidCon or something, there's like security guards at every single door of the convention center.
Mhm.
But like, I do think that like that would be very financially difficult for a lot of competitions to like hire a security guard like for the whole 10 hours that it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're trying to avoid the worst case of like just any random stranger just like coming in, like how else do you do it? I guess you could like I don't know. It would feel very weird if you like locked the doors, because then it's like almost like you're trapped in a dungeon or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we're used to the cubing community being small, and we have to get we as organizers and delegates have to get our heads out of our asses basically, and have to understand that we're serving a large community and we're serving a growing community, and the growing community like matches up really well with Murphy's Law. Things that could potentially go wrong will go wrong. It's just how the cookie crumbles, for better or for worse. This is not really like us trying to provide solutions, but us really like as a PSA, right? Like the WCA will do things. In fact, there is precedent for some of this.
Yes.
There is law enforcement that's involved. There is the WDC that's involved. Perma bans have been distributed. Indefinite bans have been distributed. There is precedent for things that are like truly bad, but this is more so just a PSA. If you can, like, please, if you're a guardian, if you're a parent, don't drop off your kid at a cube competition, and we're not your babysitters.
Yeah.
Like, this is like number one. Like, it's happened a handful of times, more that I would be okay with, truth be told. We're not your babysitters at the end of the day. And that could be the difference between a lot of things happening, right? But just in general, like a PSA to people who think that way, like, I mean, you're on our radar. I mean, we are aware. So, you know, like, people are going to try to do what they're going to try and do, but, you know, this is a PSA to people who are maybe not aware. To be aware, right? It's just like a public service announcement, like, as it is. Like, just be careful. You know, you never really know what's going to happen in a very, very growing, flourishing community. Just takes one incident, and things could go really south for you. And it's probably a fellow cuber that might be involved in some situation that you would not even know.
It could be high profile names for all we know, right? Which makes it all the more scary. But I guess that's the main thing that we can do is, like, spread awareness. Like, you know, we like gotta be careful in, like, the things that you do.
It's good to have fun, you know. Just understand that this is like crowding.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's like the worst case liability that can happen. But I guess to kind of bring it back and really wrap up everything, we kind of talked about a lot of different crazy incidents that can happen. And it's probably okay. Yeah,
I have one thing to say. It's just a little bit of a joke to, like, ease it a little bit. But when we had a private conversation about this a little bit, Manu, like, guys, you gotta listen. Like, Manu was like, "What if there's an earthquake?" And I'm like, "What do you mean if there's an earthquake? We got a lot of other problems, Manu, if there's an earthquake."
That's a good point. Yeah.
Like, the least I'm worried about is one person being hurt. The least I'm worried about is, like, the entire venue being collapsed, people, like, dying, I'm dying. Like, there's a lot of other problems that I would not, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I also feel like
that's kind of strong.
I mean, no one is gonna blame the earthquake on speedcubers. Like,
I would hope not. Yeah.
The venue gets back to us. They're like, "Yeah, you actually owe us like $3 million for this venue because it was destroyed in the earthquake. This is clearly your fault."
Vsauce proved that 100 people stepping on the floor causes earthquakes.
Well, I mean, like, microquakes, like 1 on the Richter scale or something. I mean, I think it's like that's a whole subject that I know nothing about. Is like when there's a natural disaster, who is responsible for paying for everything?
I assume that there's probably some
rebuilding
sort of
a building.
Government.
Yeah, government, right? It's the government.
Definitely government related.
Yeah,
I know. Like,
that's
WCA,
punching
like,
way above our grade.
Can you imagine, like, if the WCA was legally responsible for rebuilding a building?
That would.
Okay,
that would probably destroy...
I mean, partially, in a sense, what Manu's story was is partially true. Not rebuilding the whole building, but I mean,
but paying for some of the repairs.
I think that that makes some sense because it's like something that the WCA caused was a direct, like, cause of the damage. Mm-hmm. With an earthquake, it's like Mother Nature. Like, are you gonna tax Mother Nature?
Yeah, I think it's literally like I think there's a phrase they use, like, acts of God or whatever. Like, when things like this happen, I think there's, like, standard language and probably protocols for what to do. But in any case, that is punching way above our pay grade. We don't need to worry about earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanoes. Well, but it would be cool, if you think about it, to have a comp next to an active volcano.
Next to a volcano?
Next to an active volcano. Don't you think that'd be cool?
Yeah, anyone who DNFs...
Wait, did someone say volcano. A competition in Hawaii?
Not just Hawaii. I mean like literally at the foot of an active volcano. Don't you think that'd be sick?
Yeah, I'm saying if you DNF, you get thrown in the volcano.
Oh, and it's like a PDQ no less, right?
Okay, it's 3 blind too.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so like better go slow and steady because
Very, very slow.
that volcano is waiting for you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we're just gonna sacrifice.
Yeah.
Oh no, this is the best way to deal with overcrowding at competitions, right? If you don't make the second round, you get tossed into the volcano.
Oh my god! Like people are like so nervous as they're solving. It's like, oh, I have to beat him. Like it's either me or him going in the volcano.
See, if we did every competition like this, then people would naturally get faster and faster.
Well, I mean, it's because the slow people would not exist anymore. It's like that's evolution.
Thanks for explaining it.
This is a meme, by the way. This is not serious. I'm not throwing people.
Wait.
Well, no, obviously we're not gonna like actually do it.
Wait, if you fall into a volcano, do you die from the fall damage or do you die from the lava?
I mean, it depends on how far down the lava is.
It depends on how far down it is, and it also depends on like. It depends on how cool it is, right? Because if it's lava, if it's like literally molten, then you're just gonna fall in and like catch fire, right?
But you can also die on impact, right? Like in water, if you impact water, you could die.
Yeah. And I guess lava is more thick than water, so I guess like.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Would you die on impact or die in the molten?
No,
lava?
it definitely depends on how far. But I feel like usually if it's like an active volcano, right? It's like the lava is gonna be pretty close to the top.
I mean, yes, on some volcanoes, like the lava stream is like just flowing on the surface down the side. So you just step in it and then you trip and you're in it and there's no fall damage, but
yeah, there's no way. And actually, I think probably like it's not like Minecraft. I think like you probably take some damage instantly, but I don't think the damage. I don't think you would actually catch on fire instantly.
I think you might. Okay, well, I think this podcast is getting a little.
It's getting a little hot, spicy,
now.
right?
Yeah,
it's getting very spicy.
Getting heated.
It's getting heated. Yeah, okay, we'll talk about volcano competitions in the next episode, okay?
Okay.
I think that's like
promise.
A little too new age for today.
A little too new age, yeah.
Yeah. So, with that all being said, I think this episode is coming to a close. Yeah. Liability over. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Hopefully we were not a liability to you. Or, I don't know.
We are not liabilities. We're
not liable
we're assets
for you wasting
to the
time.
That is true.
Our PSA, our episodes were assets.
We are assets. Not only the PSAs, but because this is the greatest speed cubing podcast in the world. I had to put it in there because we didn't say it at the beginning of the episode.